Is this thing working? Are we live? It looks like we're live. What is happening, everybody? Everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. Oh my goodness, so much to talk about. You know, it kind of feels good putting on the old uniform and jumping back into the game. You know, the whole Mopar thing. You know, this is really what got my channel started. Basically, what was it, like almost 10 years ago? But enough of all of that nostalgia and all. Guys, this is something that, well, I've been wanting to talk about for a hot minute. But listen, it's been a while since I've even basically opened a book for Mopar. It's been something that's been somewhat out of sight, out of mind. What with the brand moving completely over to electric vehicles and, well, all the controversy that comes with that. And also when you start to look at, well, the fact that we just don't have really much of anything to get excited about as it sits in this moment. But yet here we are talking about Tim Kuniskis, Mopar Jesus, going to save us all from the dastardly evil EVs that are out there. Well, maybe by bringing back hold on. Let's just hold up. Let me check in with you guys real quick for my early birds. And then I want to get into this whole SRT thing coming back because I don't think you know what this means exactly or what it could mean. So I want to talk about all of that, but I don't want to paint this with a rose-colored tint. Guys, you got to remember that Tim Kuniskis is going to still be, well, he still has to answer to higher ups, and it's up to them as far as how much they let him get away with. So anyway, let me check in with you guys. Sam is first in. What is up? Nitro is in. I got the ball guy with the flex and the specs. I like it. Ryan is in. What's up, Ryan? All right, so check this out, guys. In all seriousness, I just don't know how to take this. So Tim Kuniskis comes back as brand manager for Ram, and he hears everybody lamenting not having a V8 in the Ram trucks. And so one of the first things he starts talking about is adding an option for a V8 power plant. But all of that has been rather clandestine. We don't know if it's going to be the 5.7. Is it going to be an up-spec 6.4 liter? Are we going to get an SRT powered Ram? And I don't mean something with a supercharger. Not interested in that. Just give me the lightest truck with the biggest naturally aspirated engine and let me go to town with that thing. That's all we really want. But now things have changed a little bit. It looks like Tim is now going to have the free reign, at least in terms from a marketing standpoint, over all of the North American market. And, well, this has got a lot of speculation behind it. Are we going to see a new Viper? What would that even look like? We're going to talk about that. What could this mean for the Charger platform in general? Could we see a V8 put into that car? Well, maybe we can talk about that too. How would this look for Dodge or I'm sorry, Ram, but aren't they going back to the Dodge branding? Anyway, you get the idea. There's a lot of positive that can come from this, but the reality is, again, if you're still shackled by the man, then all you're going to be doing is basically be putting out trim packages, sticker packages, and that ain't going to work too well. So let me check in with you guys again real quick, and then we're going to dive into it. Sam saying, why am I getting ads for Rogaine and Waffle House? That's on you, man. All of the ads that you see come from your search history. So it's not me doing it. Sam saying maybe the twin cam will get released. Maybe. Oh, Nitro Crew saying, I had a feeling you would make a comeback. Miss Mopar chat, sold my Hellcat, now considering going back. Okay, so let's talk about this. Speaking of Hellcats, listen, you guys know my history with the Hellcat platform and with the 392s. And I just have to say this. What are you going to put them in? I guess it's really more of a question that needs a lot more development, because this is how I see it. If you are looking at the new Charger platform to be the nest, if you will, for your V8, I need to remind you of a couple of realities that are going to be, well, a little bit too painfully obvious when we start talking about that new platform and putting a V8 in it. The new Charger is massive. Look, that's just not my subjective opinion. That's objective if you look at it by the numbers compared to the already considered to be rather large LX platform. The old car can fit inside of the body shell of one of those cars. So you have to understand that weight is going to have a big factor in this. There's only a few ways that you can get around weight in this respect. You can up the power, which creates a lot of problems downstream, mainly in reliability, parts breakage, that kind of thing starts to be an issue. You can, assuming the weight stays the same, you can make it all-wheel drive so that it at least will launch hard, but then again, lots of power and force needed to overcome mass on inertia. Yeah, that's an issue. Or you can try to make it lighter in some way, shape, or form. But there's one more thing you can do, and that's have another platform. See, here's where I'm going with this. The new Charger, by the numbers, again, is expected to be about 300 pounds heavier than the outgoing LX. Again, already a heavy car. If it's not 300, it's practically guaranteed to be 250 pounds over the 4,200 pound Charger, or rather Challenger, that it would have been replacing. You see what I'm going with this? You're talking about a 4,400 pound car. And at this point, you're going to have a lot of power to move that thing around. The Hemi, although it's great at delivering an immediate torque hit, it's not all that great at being efficient overall. And that is the issue that guys are running into in Moparville, if you will. You've got way too many folks that are seeing that the new Hurricane 6 is more efficient, it's a lighter engine, makes more power, and nobody wants it. I know it's taking me forever to get to a point, but just bear with me for a minute. Dodge, by even considering putting a V8 into that car, it's not for performance. It's simply for the Mopar loyalists that don't want to have anything to do with that car without a V8. To them, whether it has an SRT badge on it or not is irrelevant. It only has to have a V8, which is even to say that if you left out all the rest of the other V8 offerings and just had a 5.7, it was almost like they would be fine with that. But now with an SRT derived power plant, well, now you've got some options, possibly some smarter options than what we had with the LX platform. So reducing weight, maybe we finally get an aluminum block for the 6.4 liter. Wouldn't that be novel? Drop about 100 or 120 pounds off of that engine, and now it's the same weight as the Hurricane 6. And with that comes the advantage that you don't have to have multiple spring packs and different suspension setups and all of that. Just a switch over to aluminum could be the answer to a question that a lot of folks have been asking for a while, which is, why are these things having to be so heavy? Well, maybe it's tooling and maybe it's the castings and everything else. When it comes to an aluminum block, there's a lot that has to be considered. But I can tell you this, without some kind of concession for weight reduction, this freaking aircraft carrier that is in essence the Charger, almost call it a Challenger, the Charger and its four-door variant are going to be massive. And again, we're talking a minimum of around 300 pounds heavier. It means it's going to be slower. And that is something that is going to be a bit of a problem. There's a lot of folks that look at that car already with a little bit of crossed eyes because they can't bear the idea of another land yacht coming from Dodge that's going to get smoked by just a naturally aspirated Mustang. You can't have that. So all-wheel drive variants could be in play. If you can't at least make it lighter, make it hook. Use the weight to your advantage at this point. All-wheel drive has done great for the Trackhawk and for the Durango. So in this case, you've already got heavy vehicles with a V8. Make it all-wheel drive, make it hook, and maybe now that's a little bit of its party trick. You got to look at it from these different points of view, though, because the critics are going to be coming all over these cars. When they are released, they're going to be absolutely picking them apart like buzzards on roadkill. So having this thing be able to hook, and I mean dead hook on the street, give it a revised variant of whichever Hemi you want to come up with, and maybe we've got a winner. But I think this is where, I don't know if the wheels fall off the wagon, but there's definitely something out of whack. Look, in this amount of time, this short amount of time, Dodge has not developed a twin cam V8 like we thought we were going to get so many years ago. And I don't think that there's any way to get around this fact. The Hemi, as it sits, it's a great engine. It's one of the best engines ever. The only problem is it does need to be revised. And I'm not even saying bump up the displacement, make it 426 or whatever. That's not even, that you don't need to do. You got plenty of displacement with just shy of 400 cubic inches. Give that thing an intake manifold that lets it breathe, get a little bit different cam profile that will allow it to make a little bit better mid-range power and upper end power. And I think you've got a winner, and it would still pass emissions with catalytic converters. I don't see how it wouldn't. These are the types of things that need to be done with that engine to bring it into 2025. Look, guys, what used to be acceptable and even celebrated 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it doesn't get the job done anymore. 400, 450, 500 horsepower, it literally won't get the job done, especially in light of the fact that you've got the 5.0 making what, 485 horsepower, 400 and whatever it is, more than the Hemi, the 6.4 at least. But it's a lot lighter. And the thing is that, again, I cannot emphasize this enough. That new car being as big as it is, anything that powers it is going to have to be significantly more potent than was in the other cars just to have this car keep up if it's not all-wheel drive. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling on here. Let me check in with you guys, and then I will get back to yammering on. Ryan saying, give us a max wedge 392. So this is, okay, Ryan brings up a good point. Leave displacement alone, but give it a better set of wedge heads. Guys, I've been saying this for a hot minute. The Hemi heads, they flow great, but the problem is that they're not the most efficient cylinder head. No Hemi head is. They're great for bringing air in. In other words, they are volumetrically very efficient, but they're not very thermodynamically efficient. You have to have a heavier piston to get like compression ratios, or you have to have a lot of squish area, which is why modern Hemis have more or less an oval combustion chamber. Bring a head in, and a max wedge head on a Hemi would look just like a set of like LS3 heads or LS7 heads from GM. No different. Call it a max wedge and let that thing come out neat. Now you might have an opportunity to have better emissions, a cleaner engine, and an engine that is realistically more with the times. Less frictional loss as well. Better valve train geometry with a wedge head too. Oh, Sam's talking about the diesel for the smaller trucks? Maybe. Sharp's checking in saying, B, anything new with the Gixxer 750? Get the M4 exhaust yet? Man, I'll tell you what, we are still waiting for an exhaust to show up. So I can't wait for it. I am on pins and needles. And as you know, we are still sitting on our Heeltech quick shifter. And in this case, I'm going to be configuring this to only work in upshifts. I will still be blipping on downshifts myself. But yeah, no, we're still waiting on it. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we're gonna have a Gixxer back in the shop here. I don't know, maybe in a couple of weeks. We shall see. Let's see. Him saying Hemi. X is saying that the EV Charger is already all-wheel drive and it's still a terrible performer. The Charger just needs to be a GT car, and they need to release a new Challenger that is 100 to 200 pounds lighter than the LX car. Exactly. So here's, how do I put this? Here's the problem that Dodge is going to have. What you can't do is you can't undo what has already been done, which means that every bit of, every bit of investment that's gone into the new Charger has to be recouped, maximized, or whatever. There's been too much time, effort, and energy put into the new Charger to just dismiss it. The smart money is to say that you put like a 300 badge on that thing, and you're exactly right. Develop a smaller car. Again, nobody asked for another tank of a vehicle to be put out into the world. Most Mopar guys would have been fine realistically with the Hurricane 6 platform had it only been given the right body, the right actual car platform to be put into. And that didn't happen. And look, you can't say that it can't be done. Again, a car that they could have mimicked, and it's a car that I'll be bringing to you very shortly, is the old school BMW 4 Series. There was a version of that car with the X-Drive. It's all-wheel drive, has a twin-turbo inline six. Oh my gosh, this is starting to sound familiar. And that car is the all-wheel drive version is what, 3,900 pounds? This basically writes itself. And if you need to put a V8 in the thing, figure out a way to make it fit. But the reality is that that type of car is what most Mopar guys were hoping this next iteration was going to be. So with that, I just don't know that there's any way to put it. Dodge really screwed up with the new Challenger. Sorry, the new Charger. See what I mean? See what's happening there? I can't get it out of my head that they don't make the Challenger anymore. I guess I'm still stuck on stupid with that. But the more I think about it, they could make a Challenger. It's the littler one. You got the Charger. Don't bother with making that thing 2-door anyway. Make that thing 4-door. That's what the Charger was. Make the Challenger and make it the smaller version of it. You can do this. It's not that hard. That's what you pay engineers for, right? Isn't that why they do what they do? Let's see. Hang on just a second. Oh, Sam's talking about different engines. Look, the problem with different engines right now is that they've got to do something with what they have the tooling for in this moment. If there was a 4-cam engine coming, it needs to have already been in development, and I just don't see that being the case. And that car is just too big. Right. They could release dual overhead cam max wedge cars. Technically, you wouldn't call it a max wedge because they are Pentastar heads. Eerily enough. Call a Scamp, CUDA, or a GTX, but they all need to be 200 pounds less than the LX. And that's the thing. There's no reason why they couldn't do it. And you could use existing architecture, just revise the cylinder heads. There's the Hemi cylinder head is not the best cylinder head design for every application. And again, I just look no further than the LS3 LT platform. Look at LS7 platform. It depends on if you want to keep it port injected or have a dual fuel system with direct injection with a secondary fuel system to keep the valves clean and for in general enrichment. But the reality is this, guys, they're not going to get where they need to be with what they've got now. There's got to be some kind of evolution to this platform, and we're just not seeing it. And that's one of the things that I think bothers me the most. So let's get into, we talk about the what ifs, but what I want to talk about are models. What could we be possibly looking at, and what are the rumors, and what are people, what are talking heads yammering about? Okay, first one is could there be another Viper? Okay, well, no, doubtful. See, here's the problem with trying to make another Viper. What are you going to power it by? Think about it. The smart money is to build something small with a very high output Hurricane 6 that's all-wheel drive. It's something that weighs 3,600 pounds, something nasty with about 600 or 650 horsepower. Yeah, that's where you would want to be with the existing architecture that you have. It would be an easy fit. A V10 is out of the question. You can't use it for anything else other than the Viper. And by the way, let's just be honest with ourselves here. A lot of the cars that we're talking about, I'll talk about the Viper and these other, the Cuda, maybe if they ever made that thing, maybe they call it the Challenger, all of this. Let's not forget what kind of money these things were costing not that long ago. Guys, it was not too many years in our rearview mirror where Dodge was getting or asking $85,000 for base model Hellcats. The Viper was going for easy into triple digits, 6 digits, triple. Trucks are obnoxiously expensive, even at that. I mean, hell, the best value right now is the RHO, and that's a $70,000 truck, and that eerily enough is a steal compared to the Tungsten series, which are all $80,000+ vehicles to get a high output engine. So what are these things going to end up costing? I mean, look, I don't mind talking about the different platforms and engines and all of that other stuff, but there's a reality to this. And the reality is that no matter what they decide to throw out there, who's going to be able to afford it? I mean, seriously. Oh, it would be exciting if they built a new Viper, I guess. But statistically speaking, you can't afford it. What about if they made a new Challenger and they did this, that, or whatever else to it? That's great. But again, history is going to show us that that's going to be a $70,000, $80,000 car. Can you afford an $80,000 contraption? Man, I don't know about you, but I can't. And again, most folks cannot. And so there's a lot of people that are getting so excited about this brand doing something, but they're not being honest with themselves. Are you going to get excited just to see one go down the road? Oh, I'm a Dodge fan. Look, there goes a ridiculously expensive car that I should be able to afford, but I can't because Dodge is trying to bend you over a barrel on this. And here's something else to consider. If you get bored, go take a look at what get a little bit of, go take a look at what the trade-in value or the resale value is of a 2023 Hellcat. I'll wait. Oh, you done? Have you looked it up yet? Okay, I'll spare you the labor of doing that. $57,000 is what you can hope to get for it. $53,000 is trade-in, and most folks are asking $61,000 for that car. It's 2 years old. It's 2 years old. Barely 2 years old. Hell, really, it's only a year and a half old. And that car probably cost $85,000 if you didn't pay a dealer premium. So let's just say it's $85,000. It dropped $30,000 in a year and a half. And that's all of them. That doesn't matter if, I mean, that's a Hellcat, that's a Challenger Hellcat, but think of it like this. What if you bought one of the sticker cars and paid 100 grand for it? And now you could only hope and pray to get 70 grand for that thing. That's if you could get it. That's a 30 plus thousand for some of the sticker cars, which were stickering at $109,000 for the Hellcat variants that are going for 70 now. Are you kidding me? These cars, year and a half old, and I get it. Cars lose value. I understand that. Expensive cars versus cheap cars, if they both lose 20% of their value, the number is going to be a lot bigger for that expensive car. But it just goes to show that they're not so cool that they're immune from depreciation. And I think that's one of the key takeaways here. If nothing else, just know that SRT coming back, I don't know that it does anything for a whole lot of people. I don't know that this saves the brand, because what's going to save the brand is Dodge putting cars out that actually, well, that actual human beings can buy, and that it actually makes sense for them to purchase, not to just go into crazy kinds of debt, extending their debt portfolio out 8-9 years on one of these things. That's the issue. Dodge used to be an everyman car. Look, let's go down the list of cars that let's just on the silver screen. Okay. What kind of car did Al Bundy have in Married with Children? Had a Dodge Dart. What kind of car does Bob Belcher have in Bob's Burgers? Almost called it something else. Bob's Burgers. That's an Aspen station wagon. So they even made it into cartoons. If you're a big fan of Vanishing Point, that's just a 440 RT Challenger. Not crazy expensive at all. Keep going down the list, and every Dodge that you see is an everyman's car. Anybody with a full-time job would be able to buy one of those things. And so now we're looking at a bunch of Dodges that you've got to be in a pretty privileged place to be able to buy. So am I going to get excited for that? Man, I don't know. Make something that every man can buy, an every man kind of hot rod, something that's going to be reliable and fun, affordable. That's what I'll be interested in. And until then, I'm just not going to be able to get all worked up. Now, look, I understand that Mopar Jesus is going to do whatever he can do to try to keep this brand alive. But the reality is that he's still going to be shackled by his higher ups for what he can do. And I hate to say it, but any kind of major change, whether it's engine or platform, combination thereof, are going to have to be developed. It's going to take a ton of time to get there, at least 4 to 6 years. I mean, think about it. You not only have to design it, you got to design the machines that make it, right? You've got to, how are we going to do everything about building a new car? Well, there's so many steps to this. You're talking years upon years and millions, if not billions of dollars in development. They've just done that. They just got through spending, what was it, like $30 billion on developing this new Charger, and it is a complete and total flop. They can't afford to fail again. And so whether they use what they have existing or they just start from a clean sheet of paper, time will tell, guys. But I just don't know that this is going to be enough from Tim Kuniskis and all of everything cool that he brings to the table. I just don't know that it's going to be enough to resurrect this brand and to re-endear it with those Mopar faithful. But let me check in with you guys. Oh, got Ryan and Sam hanging out. Ryan's talking about the Alpha Giulia platform. It was Giulia initially, which would have been pretty sick, and then they figured out that they could not retool it for the V8, and so they were looking at the Ghibli platform. And that's the one that was going to get greenlit, but that got shelved. In fact, that was the one. And again, I feel like this is part of the Mandela effect, but there was, I know, and y'all have heard me say this so many times, I can't even find it, but I remember people talking about a 4-cam V8 being in development, and that was going to be what was going to be put in the Ghibli, and that was going to be your new Challenger Charger platform that was going to be based on that. And that obviously never happened. So, oh, Stuart's saying this year's Roadkill Nights is the Hurricane engine only. That wouldn't necessarily be bad. I know they did that. They did that. I thought that was last year too. Didn't they do the Hurricane engine? I tell you what, one of my favorite swaps was the guy that did it was the Viper with the high output, didn't he? That should have been a lot of fun. I need to go back and watch that. I was pretty salty with Dodge at that point, especially last year. I was just not altogether. I wasn't altogether in love with the idea of being involved with anything Mopar at about this time last year. But with that, guys, I am going to I'm going to reel in the live show here a little bit on the early side. I got to get back to work. But listen, I'm just going to wrap it up by saying this. Anything that brings any kind of good vibes, positive direction, or whatever to Mopar, I'm a big fan of that. That's how I got my YouTube channel started. It's been a passion of mine for years. And it's been something that is and has been a really cool part of my life, being able to meet all of you guys, being able to hang out, talk, interact, and all of that. But I have to say that I've moved on. And yes, we're doing a Mopar Chat live show tonight, but I got to tell you, you know, the shirt that I'm wearing, the Two Wheel Tuesdays and the Let's Ride stuff, that's still going to be coming. And so I'm just going to say this. Bet that this is the last Mopar Chat live show that we do for a while. I will, on occasion, maybe do some standalone videos for the Mopar content. But realistically, guys, I've moved completely over to motorcycles. And so, again, don't mind talking about it. Do some stuff every once in a while just to keep things fresh. If there's anything cool to talk about, I will. But realistically, the way that the channel has been going, I've had a lot of opportunity to interact with folks all over the globe, and I want to keep that trend going. Speaking of which, Tim's in, my man, saying, hey, off topic, but what's a better bike, GSX-R 750 or GSX S1000? Dude, hell of a question. So I'm going to take a break from the Mopar stuff and just talk to Tim real quick. So check this out. They're two completely different bikes. The GSX S1000, where do you begin with this thing? It's the engine frame and swing arm from the K5 GSX-R 1000. It is a bit detuned and remapped for more mid-range. I will say this, it's every bit as torquey as you may imagine a leader class bike to be. And that's what gives you a bit more of a rich riding experience. But it just depends on what kind of bike you like. Because as cool as that bike is, it's a naked. And at any speed over like, I don't know, 80 miles an hour, it's going to kind of beat you up. So in saying that, you put a windscreen on it, maybe put a different set of bars on it. It can be a really fun bike. But I would actually kind of steer you, if you like a naked bike, it's a great bike. But if the GSX-S 750 is really good too. But you got to remember, I had my Katana, and the Katana it's a GSX S platform, and it's an amazing bike. But again, the 1000cc bikes, they've got a little bit, at least mine had a much more upright stance, and I don't really feel all that comfortable on those kinds of bikes. The 750, the GSXR 750, it just doesn't have the rich torque hit that the GSX S1000 does. And so it so depends on what kind of motorcycling that you want to do. My preference, I got to go with the GSXR 750 just because I prefer sport bikes over the naked bikes. There's nothing wrong with the S1000 though. I kind of feel like it's a little bit limited in a way. So not to say that you can't have fun with it, and not to say that, you literally can't ride it over a certain speed. I mean, my Katana has been buzzed up over 150 many times, but the Katana is a little bit different animal because it has a little bit more fairing, a little bit more aero, and that does make a difference once you start getting over, say, 100 miles an hour or so. So hopefully I know that doesn't really answer the question. I would probably argue that say okay, cool. I reckon I'll stay with my 750 for now. He's got risers on his 750, so it's pretty good. Man, I tell you what, if you've got risers on your 750 and you prefer a little bit more of an upright seating position, go check out the S1000. And you might be pretty impressed by it. If that is a bit more comfortable for you, and let's say it's a bit more comfortable for you and you're not really attacking the turn super hard and you're just out having fun, getting the bike on the side of the tire and just enjoying it as a motorcycle, and you're not seeing yourself going over 100 miles an hour too often, say 120, you're just going to buzz it up to 120 getting on the freeway or something like that, and then you typically roll out of it, the S1000 might be a little bit better bike for you in that respect, based on your comfort level with how you're sitting on it. But with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Again, a little bit of channel news for you, if you will. And again, I will start getting excited about Mopar when, how do I put this? I'll start getting excited about Mopar when Mopar starts putting together vehicles that are exciting for me. And it's going to be a personal choice at that point. Something that I can afford, something that's fun, something that isn't necessarily relying on outright power to try to impress. That's when I'll start getting interested and involved with Mopar again. And until then, Mason's checking out on that deal. Tim saying we'll have to take one for a ride for sure. But guys, with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Listen, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. And with that, that's a wrap. Adios.